couple of days ago, I did a Tekken 8 influencer tier list. Now, this is something I just want to do for fun, really just to look at how many content creators we have in Tekken and the amazing things that all of these guys, most of these guys, are providing. Now, I will admit, I did put some people too high and also so many people too low. When you're looking at this many names, it's easy to get confused and caught up in this and miss out on that. The most egregious thing on this list, in my opinion, is putting Maximilian too high. He's an incredible FGC content creator, but when you're holding in specifically on Tekken, he should fall a little lower. But then for Arslan and Neat to be in B tier in terms of influence, I make so many videos about the things these guys say, the things these guys do, their accomplishments, and for me to not put them in S was a incredible oversight. But with influence, with power, comes great responsibility. And I feel like Nee and Arslan, these are two of the best players on the planet, right? What they have done over the duration of Tekken with Nee, you could go all the way back to like Tekken 4, Tekken 5 with Arslan. You started Tekken 7 and look at everything he's accomplished in that short period of time. These two guys are so influential to where they forced Tekken 8 to be different. Harada changed Tekken because of the way these two guys play the game. Arslan is doing incredible. Nee is kind of struggling right now. A discussion that's never ending and always continuing is the one about balance. There is this post on the Tekken subreddit. What's your main character's biggest weakness and strength? It's no secret. I play Yoshimitsu, right? Yoshimitsu is right now like top 3 strongest character in the game. A lot of people probably would say number 1. I personally want to put him over a Nina, let's say a Dragunov, let's say an Alyssa, but he's definitely top 3, top 5, right? But his biggest weakness, in my opinion, is he doesn't really have that much tracking. Like a lot of his moves, you can step out of it and then boom, you can hit him. But his greatest strength, I think, is the ability to just overall counter your opponent, whether it be evasion, whether it be the flash, whether it be interrupts, whether it be he just has an ability to, take what you're doing and use it against you. And that's always been his strength. And I think it was a huge mistake for them to make him this rushdown character, because they made him a rushdown character in Tekken 8, but they didn't remove a lot of the elements that made him like this keep out, you can't touch me kind of guy. And with him having both of those things, it makes him powerful. I think back to Akuma in Tekken 7, how Akuma had a lot of his 2D mechanics, but also he was given the Tekken 7 mechanics. Those two things in conjunction with one another just makes those characters do something that not everyone else can. And when the player base sees that, they just have a nasty feeling. Yoshimitsu, a lot of people are talking about this guy, and some things I feel like is kind of egregious. I feel like some people are kind of reaching. I have this video here of a Zhao Yu main complaining about how Yoshimitsu can spin out of basically the setups, the attacks, can invade it. And Inconsiderate Raccoon, who I place at A on the tier list, has a very good response to this. I'm not downloading Tekken 7 again. Someone showed me if he did this in Tekken 7, and someone went back and did the work. And as you can see here, Yoshimitsu does the same thing in Tekken 7. And this is what I dislike about how people talk about balance. And I don't want to come off as a Yoshi main. I know like the comment section is going to be like, lol, cry harder, Yoshi scrub. I think generally about how balancing, right? Because we've seen people attack Dragunov, King, Jin, Yoshi. The list is going to continue, right? Right now it's Yoshimitsu. Everyone's looking at everything this guy ever did and they're saying, we got to get rid of that. We got to stop that. The character gets destroyed. And then what the player base do, there's no satisfaction. They then go to the next character. What's the next strongest character in the game? And let's complain about that. I just feel like we've seen this pan out with Tekken 7 already. We had like 7 years worth of complaining with that game. A lot of players just like was never satisfied. And at the end of the game, you still had a lot of like crazy unbalanced characters. FENG, Claudio, Master Raven, Katarina. In my opinion, I think the conversation around balance will never end, and all it serves to do is just divide the player base, frustrate people, upset people, and in my opinion, that's kind of why I stay away from balance. But the reason why I wanted to talk about it in this video is simply because of Nee. Now, I think we all would put FENG at least in our top 10. Maybe you want to say your top 5 is like a Yoshi, Alyssa, Lily, Nina, Dragunov, and FENG would be out of that, but I think we all would say he's easily top 10, definitely top 5. But Nee put out on Twitter with no explanation, no reasoning whatsoever. He simply says, Currently, I don't recommend FENG. Now, what's interesting about this is, one, at the same time when he said this, Mold Gold beat King Ray with FENG. Now, you could argue that FENG is a lot stronger than Asuka. In that matchup, King Ray's kind of the underdog. He was a loser. He had to win twice. It's a lot to overcome. But regardless, for me to say this, especially with all the experience he has with FENG, it's pretty interesting, and dare I say, a lot of people would consider this a hot take. What's interesting about Tekken 8, and this is something that I'm still like really processing as the game is like progressing, right? A lot of characters are different. Like Lydia, for example. Lydia, not in Heat, just regular Lydia, is like a pretty simple character, like a pretty straightforward character. But as soon as that Heat activates, you get immediately locked down. You can't move, you can't play. You have high unblockables that come out so fast and you end up dying to the pressure, right? I feel like FENG is also a character like that who can overwhelm you in Heat. Year 1 of Tekken 8 is about Dragunov, Yoshi, FENG, and Nina. What Tekken 7 showed us is that some characters will not get nerfed, meanwhile other characters will get absolutely destroyed. You could talk about Dragunov being super OP, they nerfed him. You could talk about Kazumi being super OP, they nerfed her. Akuma, Geese Howard, Marduk, Julia. A lot of characters went very long without getting nerfed at all. Paul Phoenix, right? Some of these characters only got stronger as time went on. Katarina, Master Raven, Brian Fury. And I just wonder, for Tekken 8, what path will these characters fall? I think Yoshimitsu is going to get destroyed. I think Dragunov will get destroyed. FENG, he's a character who only got stronger within Tekken 7 and it carried into Tekken 8. I wonder if they will actually take him down this time, or if it'll just be a character who just is allowed to be powerful, right? Kind of like a Jin Kazama, kind of like a King, like a Steve Fox. The developer has showed us time and time again that the fan favorites, the popular characters, but it's just certain characters do not get balanced the same way as other characters. Like if we talk about Alyssa is a character who dominated in Tekken 7. She was very good in tournaments, but she was also, when you talk about the base roster, she was like number 1, number 2 in terms of like the most deadliest character in the game. And in Tekken 8, that's the same thing, right? So you can see that a character like Alyssa, the developers are obviously want her to do damage online, and I don't really see her getting the same level of nerfs that Yoshimitsu will receive eventually, right? So I just wonder, like, when you have conversations about these top characters and what they're all currently doing, I think the ending outcome will be different for all of them, and some will die, some will live, more will rise up. But what's really important is just like how the conversation around balancing never truly ends. Like, we had this conversation, and this is the thing too, right? I used to talk about like pay to win DLC and balancing a lot, and 1, the conversation was just very toxic, 2, was very repetitive, and 3, it never ended. And for Tekken 8, I kind of learned from that, and I kind of just like try to do things that interest me, because like I just feel like it's not a conversation I want to be a part of, especially when my character is like the center of the discussion. Anything I say or do will just be seen as like, you're coping or whatever, right? So I kind of stay out of it. We can also talk about some of the low tiers and whether or not they'll rise up. You know, Raven is considered very weak in Tekken 8, but that is, I looked at my stats, that's the character who I struggle against the most. So if they buffed Raven, I would be in a world of hurt, right? Oh, and the final thing I'll talk about, so I seen a comment on one of my past videos, and someone was saying, why does your videos always end like abruptly, like it just suddenly ends? And the reason why it does that is simply because